Hello, everyone. My name is Yunus. I'm the founder and CEO of vFairs, and today with me, I have Noah, who is the head of marketing and operations and a co-founder at Speak About AI, the first speaker agency dedicated to AI experts. Noah, thank you for joining today in the podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much. Great to meet you, Eunice, and I'm super excited to be here.
Noah, tell us a bit more about, the agency that you're working with right now, and your journey of how did you found this agency, and what it has to offer.
Yeah, so I don't think a lot of people expect themselves to kind of end up in the AI space, as we were talking about a little bit before this. But I can say I have a bit of a unique background compared to a lot of people. So my dad's actually been in AI for 40 years. He was one of the co-founders of Siri.
Wow.
So through that, I actually grew up around AI, but for me, I never had really connected to programming, to being technical, etc. And that kind of pushed me away from the AI space. I really like stories and people and getting to connect with others. I originally was doing that more through marketing, but actually in university, I ended up essentially doing an independent study with one of my favorite professors on the AI, like AI applications for marketing and business use cases. And through that, really got to see how applicable AI is beyond just being a coder, where before you really had to, in order to build cool things with AI, be technical and really understand what's happening kind of behind the closed doors. But now I really got to use LLMs and get to understand how it can impact the average person who doesn't know how to code. And that really inspired me to dive more into that. And then when Robert Strong, who's a magician and performs for every top tech company, LinkedIn, Meta, Google, approached me and was like, hey, I have this idea for a speaker bureau where we can use all of our connections in the tech space with all of these people who've been in AI for 40 years who just want to talk about AI and build things. We can bring in the expertise of booking, marketing, etc., to help them expand and share their message around the world.
And I can totally imagine how the agency should be a lot more like should be extremely in demand right now. Like I personally am also running an AI conference, and up until recent past, I was trying to find out the speakers who can speak about AI, who are just well known. So walk me through the process. If someone want to use your services right now, how does that part work? They reach out to you, you help them find the speakers. I went through your website. I can see a lot of speakers listed over there as well, but just want to learn a little bit more about how people are using your services, right?
Yeah, so I would say there's two camps. There are people who come to us and they're like, hey, this speaker is the best fit for an event, specifically if it's someone who's high profile, if they're looking for, say, Adam Cheyer, Peter Norvig, Andrew Main, who are speakers who kind of work with a lot of those larger brand names and come from very reputable backgrounds. But a lot of event professionals also come to us, end up filling out our web form or reach out to me directly and are like, hey, I don't know anything about AI. I know that our attendees want to learn about customer experience, or these are their pain points and these are their concerns, or this is how they feel about it. And my job is really to be that niche expert who can come in and say, hey, for your event, you have, say, C suite executives in the healthcare space, and they're primarily looking for something focused on the patient experience. And I can come in as that niche expert and be able to say, hey, this speaker, Lucian England, is the perfect fit for your event. He can give that optimistic lens and speak to your doctors or C-suite executives' pain points of how is this actually going to impact their bottom line and actually have the right messaging, but also the optimistic view on AI. I think a lot of corporations don't necessarily want to hear that AI is going to end the world. I think it's important to have a bit of a realistic lens, but at the same time, it's also really hard to navigate just the sheer swath of people out there. Like we were getting 10 speaker applications a week at one point, and for me, it's really being able to come in and be able to vet who's a good fit, who's not a good fit, who has real experience and expertise in the space, and who is now an AI expert now that ChatGPT came out. So that's really our value proposition.
Because see, running a marketplace is always hard because you have to bring in both parties at the same time, right? You need to have enough speakers and you need to have enough demand for those speakers. So tell me a bit more about. Let's start with the speakers part. Is your goal to find out most amount of speakers, or are you trying to be like very picky of who will be listed over there? And are you trying to focus on a specific niche within a certain industry, or is it more of a journal AI concept? So tell me a bit more on that piece first, and then we discuss that part.
Yeah, so for on our roster specifically, we're pretty picky with who we actually feature on our website. But I also build a lot of relationships. So I'd say it's a little bit of both. Where, yes, of course, we want to feature the people that we know are the best and the most reputable. But at the same time, we understand that 70 speakers isn't going to cover every event. And we get a lot of very, very niche requests, whether it's someone wanting expertise, say in the healthcare industry, or they say they have a limited budget and can only work within a certain space. There's all sorts of different constraints with an event that makes one speaker a good fit and one not a good fit. So it's in our best interest, both for clients and for speakers, to just have a really, really large network to where we can go and source the right person for every event. So I would say it's a mix of having that scale, but also knowing that if we're recommending someone, we want to really have a good sense of who they are, having talked to them before, having seen their content, and also just having expertise in the AI space. I use it a lot on a day-to-day basis as well, just to be able to keep up to date and know that the speakers that we're promoting and booking for events really know what they're talking about, and being able to say that, hey, I actually am using some of that stuff myself.
Sure, sounds good. No, you mentioned about the budget. Again, the thing with AI in particular is that everyone is using AI. Unless you're looking only at LinkedIn, where someone comes up with this magic prompt that has changed life, and when you use the same prompt for your own business, it hardly works. Tell me a bit more about what you're seeing right now. Again, there's this article out there also that 95% of all AI projects fail as of now. At least, haven't seen the value. So tell me a bit more about what are event planners doing wrong and how they should approach AI differently right now in order to make it work.
Yeah, so we're coming up on 2 years of Speak About AI, and the thing I think that's shocked me the most is that I wouldn't say the collective knowledge on AI has gotten any better. I would say the level of talks that need to be provided are the same as when we started. I would say even when I'm speaking with event professionals, I wouldn't say that people are necessarily that much more of an expert than they were 2 years ago. So I think even though we get to hear all of this AI information over and over again, I don't think the collective understanding is actually getting that much further, which for me, it feels like an absolute shame because I think, as you said, there's so much knowledge out there. It's really hard to tell what's reputable, what actually works, and what doesn't. And that's one of my big, I would say, gripes with the space. I think it's very easy to say things that are sensationalist or demo a specific use case that might not work across the board. And I think it's really important to be able to share that level of like realism of, hey, like, here's where it's at, here's what you can use it for, and you can save lots of time, but it doesn't work for everything. And what are the reasons of why something might not work? And that's what we try and do with speakers as well. So we try and find people who aren't just saying, hey, all your jobs are going to disappear, or hey, AI is the best thing we've ever seen, but having that realistic lens of, okay, here's how you need to think about it and approach it. And here's, based on what we're seeing right now, where do we think it's going to be in the future?
I think you're spot on, and that's where I have a follow up question. I think both for the audience, but even for myself, I've seen that there are always these speakers, and I think they share absolutely great knowledge, but often the hardest part is to take what you have just listened to and take that first or second step in actually making it happen. So, do you also have speakers who are not there just for the session, but actually for a workshop where there are actual first couple of steps taken, where someone has opened their laptop, have logged into this particular tool, have loaded a list, and have actually done something where they feel, what, I know that it will work now for me. And it's not something that's inspiring, it's practical as well.
Yeah, so it's great that you mentioned that. I think there's two different types of AI talks, I would say. There's the talks primarily for C-suite executives, where they're having to make these extremely large organizational decisions. And for them, I think using AI has some value, but it's really about how do they conceptualize this technology and be able to make the right decisions within their organization to make sure that they're able to harness it at scale. And for these types of talks, typically it's going to be very high level. It's not going to involve tools. It's not going to involve bringing out, say, a screen or something like that. It's because they really just need that high level information. But on the flip side, I would say, especially as you get more granular for the average employee in a specific field, I think it's really, really important to have that type of training. That's why, at least for me, I've been trying to create a lot more content myself and do speaking around how AI can be actually applied in the events industry and what are the use cases that's are the low hanging fruit based on the technical expertise, based on the background and familiarity of event professionals and the actual workflows they need to do. And we're actually working on, in the next few weeks, launching a workshop part of our website as well, where we're going to be able to highlight different workshop offerings from our speakers, and people can get a sense of who is it for, what are the key things that are going to be covered, what's pricing, what's their location, etc. So we can focus on providing a lot more hands-on expertise beyond just, I would say, these strategic C-suite level talks.
That's very, very interesting. I think something that a lot of people will get a lot of value from. See, it looks like you work with a lot of event planners, and from what I've been told, that you have created these custom GPTs for timeline generation and even in AI event towing. Tell me a bit more about that. Like, how does these things work? How an event planner can benefit from something like
Yeah, so a lot of the ideas that I have, I can say aren't my ideas. It came from just interviewing and talking to, similar to how you do, 200 plus event professionals, and spending the time to really sit down and understand what are the pain points, what are the problems, like how do people feel when they wake up in the morning. And I realized, especially after creating content on LinkedIn for a year and having none of it kind of be successful, that event professionals don't care about AI in general. Like, they're not a developer. They didn't get into events so they can learn about technology. They got into events to really be face to face and get to spend time with people. So for me, it was really understanding, okay, people want to use AI for the practicality and the value they get from it. So them being able to save 2 to 3 hours of manual work in a day, and from there be able to make their kid's soccer game or have an actual 8 hour workday, or have to deal with the fact that their team is understaffed and they're not able to get the event coordinator that they need. So how can they save some of that work that they're getting on offloaded to do, even if they're at the highest level of the chain? And that's what I realized. Like, the event timeline generator specifically, that came from talking to Suzette Duffus Ford, who's the head of events for Taco Bell. And she told me, just in a casual chat, like, hey, this is something that I would actually use. I have to spend all of this time creating event timelines, and I'm once again the person leading all these events, and I have to do it for every single event that I have. And it's super manual, painstaking, having to get all of these critical paths figured out, getting all of the deadlines set. But if there was a way to get an initial first draft and
that?
not have to at least get it to 50% or 70% on her own, it would save her a ton of time over the year. So that originally is what I played around with. I was like, okay, if this is like text to text, it's going to be super easy to create. And basically just shared it on LinkedIn originally. And it really resonated with people, and had 1,500 event professionals ask me to try it out. So now we have, I think, over 600 to 700 chats on ChatGPT. And I think people are really starting to get some value out of it. And my hope was to really just dip people's feet into, okay, there are some use cases where AI is going to save you time.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be perfect, but it's at least going to get you those 2 hours back a week that you can now spend doing something that's more strategic, or just be home with your family, which is the stuff that
Right.
really matters.
And people can find that GPT that you have created through your LinkedIn post. Like, where can they find that GPT that you have created?
Yeah, so they can find that either on my LinkedIn, or they can also find it on my newsletter. So I run a newsletter that has almost 1,000 event professionals now, where I send out bi-weekly tools. So I'll send out custom GPTs like that. I have all of the past editions on that website as well. And then we also have it on our Speak About AI website in our blog section.
So again, I think I'm going to ask you. So you're of course are trying to connect with speakers. You're trying to connect with, of course, people who want to find these speakers. Eventually, I'm sure like you're trying to match both of them. How are you using AI on your day-to-day basis? Like, where do you see value for yourself?
Yeah, so I think the benefit of, once again, starting a company in the last 2 years and having it just be me and my co-founder is I get to really design a speaker bureau from no previous experience, just from what I imagine it should be. And for me, I really take the term kind of AI first seriously. And I think the idea of like scalability as a company as well. So like for us, most speaker bureaus are doing, they still have sales reps who are cold calling. On the operations front, they have to have a ton of people who are able to do the contracting, the invoicing, the emails, and all of it takes a lot of time. Like, it's a very, very manual process based on people, and the margins are pretty thin. Like, it's not like, if you're having to provide really great high class service, you spend a lot of time sending emails, a lot of time having to redline contracts. Like, these are all things that in general take a ton of time, and also mean that we can't work with all the speakers that we want to. Like, as a speaker bureau, if you're booking under 5 to 10K, which there's so many amazing speakers who are in that range, and they just don't have the chance to work with a speaker bureau because there's just no margin in it for the bureau. So they're going to lose money on trying to provide that high class service. Beyond that, my goal is to really build an AI first speaker bureau
Mhm.
where I can automate a lot of the back end work, but then use content and use SEO and things like that as a more scalable way to attract clients as well. So I can keep it to kind of me, a small team, and really seeing how big we can get it. And on the back end, that looks like me just playing around and creating my own CRM from scratch, me playing around and creating my own project management system, Eventually, my goal is to really get to build out a full suite of tools. And once I have kind of my own custom SaaS tools built, the idea there is to really be able to see where AI can be plugged in. So say there's like when I'm working with a client and we finalize the event, we finalize the speaker, there are all the little nitty-gritty details that have to get figured out. Right now, I have to do all of that via email. So I'm going back and forth to client to make sure that we can figure out the AV setup and make sure that that matches with what the speaker expects, make sure that we know their load in, load out time, and just collect all this information. It's a lot of chasing. But the goal is to build kind of my own platform, which once again, I'm not technical. I can probably write maybe one line of code in Python. But through vibe coding, I'm able to build out this entire platform where I can have the speaker come in and fill out their details. I can have the client come in and fill out their details. And then I'm going to have it to where it's able to send them an email reminder of, hey, this is missing. Can you please fill this out? And I'm not a developer. I didn't have to hire a developer to do that. And right now I have to do it all manually over email. So being able to save that time of chasing different people down to get all this information in one place and then have one hub where the speaker doesn't have to come to me and be like, hey, what's the most up-to-date thing on this? They have their one source of truth where all of this lives. And from there, I can kind of take myself out of some of that process and save myself for the stuff that really matters, which is being on site for people, getting to come to the talks, being on the pre-meetings, and even just using all the time around that, whether it's going to be using the meeting notes to be able to instantly make sure that the speaker's briefed on what we talked about and not have them worry about having to take notes or remember what happened if they're doing tons of briefings, but also being able to follow up with the client and make sure that all of their questions get answered if there's stuff that can't get answered in the call. Really being able to build out the infrastructure and systems around it using both, I would say, traditional software, but also kind of upgrading it with AI where it needs to be.
Interesting. Noah, just as an event planner, what are some of the most commonly used tools that you have seen that add value? For example, like I think we all use ChatGPT or Gemini in one form or another. I'll give you one more, and then I want to really hear from you of what you have seen has worked out for event planners. So every event planner has to produce a lot of presentations to give updates to the sponsors, to exhibitors, to their own bosses, etc. So Gamma has been another tool that has been very helpful for a lot of event planners to help create presentations. But beyond ChatGPT, are there other commonly used tools? Or otherwise, I know that ChatGPT can do tons of stuff. So really, you don't have to go and find other tools if there's no need. But have you seen something that people might just not know enough about?
Yeah, I would say I'm a big believer in ChatGPT or just any out of the box model. I try and keep it as simple for people as possible.
Makes sense.
I think there's a little bit too much sometimes of this focus on, hey, you need all of these tools, you need all these subscriptions,
Yeah.
and people have limited budgets, and
Yeah.
it takes time to learn whatever new tool you have and build the habits. So the more I think you can stick to one and have one that you're actually going to use, the more value you're going to get. So that's why ChatGPT, with the fact that it has image generation, it has video generation, it has text generate, like it kind of has the most bang for your buck out of anything you can pay for. For me personally, I'm a big fan of Claude and I use Claude Code all the time. So that's how I build everything that I'm talking about is not being technical, but being able to have it plug into my website, having it be able to plug into my desktop. And it has all these connections on its own where I can do everything via text and I can see my website be created in front of my own eyes. And I just pay a flat fee every month. I don't have to pay per usage, which if people aren't familiar, there's the $20 ChatGPT subscription, and then you can basically plug in and integrate it into stuff, but you pay per question. So I can use Claude Code and just pay for a subscription and have it do all the coding, et cetera, where it would have cost me basically per question that I ask. So I'd say that's another one. I use Outrank personally. So for those who are more on the marketing side who do have to manage a website and say get it to rank for SEO for event related stuff, that's a great one that I found that automatically writes blog posts for you and then publishes them on your website. SEO content takes a ton of time and just having to write all of that out and just getting that first draft, having it all loaded in, and then you can look at it, make a few tweaks, and then publish. And it is great research. That's one that I recommend that I would say is just like a step beyond something like a ChatGPT.
That's great. No, just one last question. Looking at where AI is heading, what's one thing that will become as essential to event planning as email is today? Like, what's your bold take on that?
Yeah, so the one that I haven't gotten to play around with as much as I'd like yet, but I think is going to change probably everything in the event planning world is the AI integration into Airtable. So Airtable, Google Sheets, I expect that to come out sometime soon as well. Event professionals are in Sheets all day. Like that is the language. And if you think about it, most people had to learn all of these formulas for how to do things in Google Sheets. I see like Google Sheets and Excel as like the next programming language to die that no one's talking about yet. Where in order to create all of these financial calculations, in order to create all of these beautiful spreadsheets that you want that you're sharing with clients, etc., you have to do it manually and it takes a ridiculous amount of time. But when we can get to the place where we're able to prompt into Google Sheets, into Airtable, into Excel, and not only create the first draft, because that's something we can already do, but I don't think anyone's ever happy with their first AI created draft, even at this stage. But having it be this collaborative system where you just know what you want it to look like and what you want it to do, and it builds it out for you, and you can say, hey, no, that's not correct. You need to change this information in this cell or that cell, and you can do it all via typing and have the entire thing adjust as necessary. I think that's going to save people an unbelievable amount of time, and also mean it's not necessary to go and become an Excel wizard either. I think it's going to make it super simple for the average person.
No, you're spot on. But I think one quick question. So, see, you know a lot about event planners. So, see, have because all event planners are on sheets every single day. So tell me a bit more about like your event planning background, because I know that you're trying to, of course, deal with event planners to help them find speakers. But have you been running events yourself? Have you seen that problem yourself, so that you know so much in depth about what event planners go through?
Yeah, so last year I actually planned my first kind of conference that was 300
Wow.
people at the Microsoft headquarters. We brought in 10 speakers to do a lightning talk, but by no means am I an event planning expert. It's really just through having all these conversations and then just being the one to trial and error it. So when someone gives me their workflow, like I got to sit down with a guy named Wiley from Conference Direct, and he explained his process for doing event room blocking. So like when he has to work with a hotel and he has 700 attendees, and he's expected to be able to place all of those attendees between 12 different hotels based on accessibility, based on their seniority, based on all these things. And he showed me how he did it manually. And I'm like, man, this is terrible. There
Yeah.
has to be a better way. So, like, sitting down and really seeing how far I could get with just standard ChatGPT to at least automate some of it. It wasn't perfect. It could do about 25 names at a time. It's not like they could magically toss it in, but that's something where I expected to get better. And it's really been a lot of that, like me getting to sit down with people and them being super gracious and taking the time to explain the different types of tasks they have to do. That's super, super painful. And then me being able to go back and workshop it and see with AI, is there a better way based on my knowledge of kind of what the limits are with the technology. So I wouldn't say I'm an event professional or an event planning expert, but I would say I'm very familiar with how far you can get with AI. And through partnering with a lot of great event professionals and just having those conversations, I get a better, a more accurate picture of what do things actually look like.
Perfect. I know if people want to find you, people want to find speakers who can talk about AI. Like, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
Yeah, so I'd love for people to connect with me on LinkedIn. You can find my newsletter there as well. Or if you're looking for speakers, you can check out speakabout.ai, which is our website, and you can see our full roster there, along with a little bit more information on me and a lot of the resources I publish as well.
Noah, thank you so much for joining us today in the podcast. Thank you everyone for listening in. If you want to connect with Noah, we reach out to him on LinkedIn. Noah, thanks for being on the podcast today.
Yeah, thank you so much, Eunice.